We start back again with Blue. He was reminiscing about his llama. She could be cantankerous at times, but he loved her. However, she was no longer with him. So he decided he would go and have a chat with Pepper, his cow. And his cow, she listened, and she enjoyed the attention that he gave her, the brushing, the talking to her. She didn't know what he was saying, but she listened. And the chickens, they listened as well. They enjoyed the company and they appreciated his presence. But he told Pepper all about his plans. He told her how he missed Calypso. He told her how he thought Calypso would disapprove of his plans. He told her that he had done some things that he probably shouldn't have done. He told her that yes, Calypso was right. He loved these people, and he would really miss them if something really dastardly did happen to them. He might even feel guilty. And Pepper, what does he do with all this emotion he felt? All the anger, all the frustration, all the resentment. How is he going to handle it? Pepper, she said, "Oh, just give me a good scratch. Just give me a good scratch." She mooed and mooed her pleasure over the scratching. And it seemed to soothe Blue, the fact of her presence, the fact that she just mooed, the fact that she didn't tell him what, when, or where, or talk back to him. She didn't say anything disapproving. She didn't say anything approving either. She just enjoyed his company. And that meant a lot, really, it did. It helped him feel a little better. But not enough. So he went and he attacked his punching bag. He punched it. He pretended the faces of the people he was mad at were in front of him, and he punched it, and he punched it again, and he punched it, and he continued to do so. He even gave it a kick for good measure. He was hoping he could work out all that frustration between talking with Pepper, which helped him feel a little better, and now taking out the rest of it on this punching bag. Maybe, just maybe, he would get over all of this feeling. Maybe he'd get himself talked out of doing the things that he had planned, that he'd wrote down in his notebook that he was going to do. Maybe. Just maybe. But then Glisten showed up. He was very hungry. He'd already given her a key. He forgot he'd given her a key. And he was telling her he was hungry, but he had to go to work, and he didn't have time to eat. She wanted to know how he was doing, how Geppetto was doing, and if they needed anything. And he was very cordial, very nice, and he remembered how he really loved her, how that she was his best friend, and they met so long ago, and they'd been through so much together. Yes, she actually had stayed there, even if she flirted with the pastor. Then Geppetto had called him while he was at work and wanted him to meet her at San Myscino. She wanted him to speak with the pastor, and the pastor, he wanted to talk to Blue by himself. And he set Geppetto up to his suite so that she could fix herself something to eat, because she said she was hungry. "Blue," he said, "Geppetto tells me she's depressed, that she's upset over the wedding." And Blue said, yes, she does nothing but cry, and I don't know what to do for her," he said. He said, "Pastor, tell me, hypothetically, if someone were to take revenge on people that, well, they didn't bother to show up at an event that was planned and a lot of money spent on, what would you say to that, Pastor?" The pastor looked a little concerned, but he launched into the story of a man who was the son of a king, and he thought he should be king instead of his father. So he plotted against his father, and he gathered support from among the people. He was very beautiful, in fact, the most beautiful in all the land, and very charismatic. He managed to get himself an army and go after his father. Unfortunately, he was not the strategic person that his father was, and he did not win. He did not win the support of all the people, and in the end, he faced a tragic end. So, Blue, I don't recommend that anybody should take revenge on somebody. And then he went to talk to Geppetto, and she told him how depressed she'd been. And he suggested, why don't you get your mind off of it? Put it in the past. Why don't you and Blue go out and do something fun together, something that doesn't involve anything but the two of you? Why don't you take your mind off these things? Geppetto took him up on it. She decided she'd go skiing. Why, she hadn't mastered it yet, so maybe the gentle, easy slope she could just ski down. Maybe she could just ski down and think about the snow, the cold air, and the beauty, the ice, the snow, the trees. Take her mind totally off of all her sadness. And she skied all the way down. And it almost worked. But then she fell on a rump. Well, blast, she said. I'll have to try that again. This time we'll go to the intermediate slope. This time we'll make it a little harder. And maybe, just maybe, I will forget. I will forget how bad that I've been hurt. How lousy the most important day of my life was supposed to be. Woohoo! I made it! Look! Gee! And I didn't fall off once. Blue, on the other hand, he decided he was going to rock climb. He was going to face that mountain and conquer it. So he stopped, and he looked. He looked up, and he looked down. And he thought about how easy it would be to push somebody off a cliff. He could invite one of them up here, and maybe, just maybe, they'd slip and fall. Yes. He didn't really want them to die, of course not. And Geppetto, when they got home, she sat down to write in her journal all the day's events, to telling about how Pastor Stone had talked them into doing something. And that was fun. It was good to get out. It was good to think about something different. And then Blue, he came in. He came in to write his own versions of his day's events. And that was comforting that he was here. And she was happy that he was here. She told about her hopes and dreams and her plans. And Blue, he read a little bit over what he had written. He thought about what the pastor said. He thought about Calypso. He thought about his conversation with Pepper. He thought about his conversation with Glisten. And he thought about how angry and frustrated he still felt. Angry that Geppetto was hurt. Upset that he couldn't change things for her. Upset that it was a day that he could never take back or get back. That he couldn't change things at all for her. He felt sad. And he felt hurt. But he didn't know how to deal with all this emotion. It was just too intense, and he didn't know what to do with it. He tried everything that everyone had said. He'd done the rock climbing. He'd done the boxing. He'd tried talking to animals. He'd talked to a pastor. And it just didn't seem to be helping him. And he didn't know what to do. So he wrote, and he wrote, and he wrote, while Geppetto watched the fists to soothe herself. And he hoped somehow he could make things up to her. And he reminded himself, if he hurt her family, she might never forgive him. She might leave him. Maybe Calypso was right. Maybe, just maybe, he shouldn't do these things. Although he really, really wanted to. He was torn. He didn't know. One minute he was thinking about poisoning their drinks or shoving them off a cliff. And the next minute he was remembering drinks and food and barbecues and snorkeling and swimming, all with these people who had ruined his wedding. Why did they do this? What were their excuses? What were their reasons for not bothering? Why did they break his Geppetto's heart? Wasn't it important to them? No, of course not. The only ones it was important to were Blue and Geppetto. They were the only ones that cared about that fateful day. He could plan another wedding, but that seemed to be a silly thing to do. I mean, the first one was ruined. Why invite those people to a second one? Why, they would probably say, renew your vows already? Yeah, well, we wanted you to appreciate and enjoy it. We thought you all could make it, but apparently you couldn't. Apparently you couldn't stay for the festivities, for the food, for the drinks. True, the cake wasn't there. True, the bouquet wasn't there to be thrown. And Geppetto, she was very, very sad. And he didn't know how much more sadness of hers he could take. He just didn't know. It was way too much. No, surely he had to make them pay. Surely they had to suffer somehow. Didn't they? Wasn't it because of them that day was ruined? Wasn't it because of them he was hurt? Oh, Geppetto, what do I do? Geppetto picked up her book and walked away, not even hearing his thoughts or not even knowing the dastardly things he thought of. No, Geppetto probably wouldn't understand.